The grocery store parking lot was almost empty that afternoon. The sky hung low with thick gray clouds, making everything feel colder than usual. Sarah stepped out of the sliding glass doors, holding a small bag with milk and eggs. The air smelled faintly of rain and wet pavement. She walked slowly toward her car, the quiet crunch of her shoes against the gravel, the only sound nearby. Sarah worked at a small bookstore just down the street. She liked the calm of her job and the quiet neighborhood she lived in. She was polite and kept to herself most days. Today she just wanted to get home and relax. As she moved across the lot, she noticed a man standing near a parked truck. He was watching her. At first she thought she might be imagining it, but his eyes didn't look away. She felt a sudden chill crawl up her spine. Her pace quickened. The man stepped forward. "Hey beautiful," he said with a crooked smile, his voice low but clear. "You're looking pretty good today." Sarah didn't respond. She didn't want trouble. She just wanted to get to her car. "Come on, don't be like that," he said as he started to walk beside her. She moved faster. He matched her speed. She could feel his eyes on her, heavy and unwelcome. Suddenly his hand shot out, trying to grab her arm. Sarah pulled away quickly, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might burst. Her hands were shaking as she reached her car. She fumbled with her keys, finally unlocking the door and sliding inside. Her hands gripped the steering wheel tightly. She looked back to see the man standing there, watching her get away. Without a second thought, Sarah started the car and drove straight to the police station. The police station smelled cold and stiff, like old paper and fluorescent lights. Sarah sat on a hard plastic chair in a small waiting area, her fingers twisting nervously in her lap. She kept replaying what had happened in the parking lot, her heart still racing. When Officer Daniels finally called her name, she stood up, trying to steady her voice. The man behind the desk looked bored, his smirk already in place before she said a word. Sarah took a deep breath. "There was a man following me at the grocery store today. He said things to me, things that made me scared. He even tried to touch my arm." She looked him in the eyes, hoping he would understand how serious she felt. Instead, Officer Daniels laughed quietly. "Look lady," he said, leaning back in his chair, "guys notice women all the time. Doesn't mean it's harassment. Maybe he was just flirting." Sarah blinked, stunned. "But he touched me without my permission. I don't feel safe. What if he follows me home?" Daniels waved a hand like brushing away a fly. "You're probably overthinking it. Maybe take a bubble bath, relax. Not every guy who looks is a criminal." The words hit her like a punch. She felt smaller, invisible. "So you're not going to take a report?" she asked quietly. He shrugged. "No report. Nothing to see here." Sarah stood up, fighting the urge to cry. She wanted help, protection, but all she got was laughter and dismissal. She left the station feeling raw and humiliated, the weight of being unheard pressing down on her chest. Outside, the cloudy sky seemed darker than before, but Sarah knew she couldn't just walk away. She had to find a way to make them listen. A few nights passed, but the fear didn't go away. Sarah found herself looking over her shoulder whenever she walked outside. The small comfort of her apartment felt less safe with each day. One evening after finishing her shift at the bookstore, she stepped out onto the sidewalk. The street was quiet, the only sound the distant hum of cars passing by. Then across the street she saw him, the same man from the grocery store parking lot. He was standing near a lamp post, his eyes fixed on her like a predator waiting for its prey. Sarah's heart pounded so loudly she thought it might give her away. She tried to cross the street quickly, but he followed her every step. When she reached the corner, the man suddenly grabbed her wrist. His grip was tight and painful. "Hey, don't run away," he said with a dark smile. Sarah screamed, pulling her arm free as loud as she could. A nearby shopkeeper, startled by the noise, shouted at the man, "Leave her alone." The man hesitated, then ran off into the night. Sarah's hands trembled uncontrollably. She called the police again, desperate for help. Back at the station, Officer Daniels was waiting. Sarah told him everything. The stalking, the grab, the fear that wouldn't leave her. Daniels sighed and rolled his eyes. All right. I'll look into it. But don't get your hopes up. Sarah left the station feeling worse than before. The man was still out there, and the person who was supposed to protect her seemed not to care. At night, she kept the lights on and double-locked every door, hoping for safety that felt out of reach. Sarah couldn't keep carrying this fear alone. One afternoon, she told her best friend Maya everything: the man following her, the police ignoring her, the nights spent afraid. Maya listened quietly, her eyes dark with anger. "This isn't right," she said firmly. "You need to do something different. Maybe talk to another cop, or at least get some proof." Did the grocery store have cameras in the parking lot? Sarah hadn't thought about that. The idea gave her a small spark of hope. The next day, Sarah went back to the grocery store. She found the manager, a kind-looking man named Mr. Lewis. She explained what had happened, and asked if there was any way to see the security footage. Mr. Lewis nodded. "We have cameras covering most of the parking lot. If you want, I can help you check the tapes." They went to a small office behind the checkout area. Mr. Lewis pulled up the footage on a screen. Sarah's heart pounded as they fast-forwarded to the afternoon of the first incident. On the grainy video, she saw the man. He was standing near the truck, watching. When Sarah walked across the lot, he followed her, step by step. It was real. It was proof. Sarah and Mr. Lewis watched the security footage closely. The grainy image showed the man standing near the truck, eyes fixed on the entrance. As Sarah appeared, he shifted his weight, waiting. The man didn't just follow her from a distance. He waited near her car for nearly 10 minutes before she even arrived. Sarah's stomach twisted as she saw him muttering something to himself, his words unclear but angry. Then, as Sarah approached the car, the man reached out to touch her arm. She pulled away quickly, just like she had told the officers. The footage left no doubt this was not a harmless flirt, but someone who was stalking her. Mr. Lewis looked at Sarah with sympathy. "You should take this to the police. They need to see this." Sarah nodded, her hands trembling. She felt a mix of fear and hope. Maybe now, they couldn't ignore her anymore. The next morning, Sarah returned to the police station, this time carrying the footage on a USB drive. She felt her heart pound as she stepped inside. This was her chance. Sarah waited nervously in the police station, clutching the USB drive tightly in her hand. This time, she asked to speak to a different officer. After a few moments, Officer Reyes, a younger woman with sharp eyes, came to meet her. Sarah showed her the security footage. Reyes watched carefully, her expression growing serious with every second. When the video ended, she looked up at Sarah. "Thank you for bringing this. We'll take immediate action." Just then Officer Daniels walked into the room. His eyes caught the screen, and his usual smirk vanished. He stared at the footage, silent. Reyes turned to him sharply. "Why wasn't this reported the first time?" she asked, her voice cold. Daniels looked uncomfortable, but didn't answer. Reyes nodded at Sarah. "You did the right thing by coming back. We'll handle this now." For the first time, Sarah felt like someone believed her. The man who had made her life a nightmare was finally facing consequences. Within 24 hours the man was arrested. The police found out he had a long history of harassing women, but complaints had been ignored or lost in the system. For years, he had slipped through the cracks. Officer Daniels was put on suspension while the police department opened an internal investigation. Officer Reyes filed an official complaint against him for dismissing Sarah's first reports and failing to take proper action. Sarah's bravery had finally broken through the silence. The system was starting to hold someone accountable. Slowly, Sarah began to feel safe again. She signed up for self-defense classes and started walking with her head held a little higher. The fear didn't disappear overnight, but it grew quieter inside her. She still watched her surroundings carefully, but now there was something stronger in her eyes, quiet strength born from standing up for herself when it mattered most. Sometimes the people who are supposed to protect you don't listen at first. But when the truth comes out, even silence has to answer. Sarah's story wasn't just about fear or pain, it was about courage, the the kind that grows from speaking up, even when it feels impossible.